So, Taner Rabbanan. The Gemara quotes a brisa regarding a master's obligation to his Jewish servant. Taner Rabbanan. Ki tayv loi imach. The rabbis taught in a brisa. Oh, hi Reuven. Shalom Aleichem. So, we learned in Devarim. It's coming up. We got the book over here. So it's page 16 in Kiddushin. So we're talking about avadim, how we have to treat a Jewish servant or slave. So it says in the pasuk, "Ki tov lo imach." I think it will be good for you with him. In the event that he will say, "I will not leave you, for he loves you and your household, for it is good for him with you." So we have this very interesting din of a servant that wants to stay by his master. He doesn't want to leave. And he says he's having a good time. Ki tov lo imach. It's good for him. So we're talking about a Jewish servant. We're talking about an Eved Ivri. Yeah. And he's treated very well, like we'll see over here. And the pasuk says, "Ki tov lo," it is good for him, imach, together with you. And when we say im, it compares the two things. So if we're saying that the servant is with you, it means that he has the same status for certain things. From here we learn that during his term of servitude, a Jewish servant must be with you. That is, his standard of living must be equal to yours. He must be with you in food and with you in drink. And now the Gemara explains, what does it mean that he is with you? Your master should not eat white bread while he, the servant, eats coarse bread. Some people, prefer whole wheat, but I guess white bread in the times of the Gemara was considered much more important or better. You should not drink aged wine while he drinks young wine. You should not sleep on soft material while he sleeps on straw. From here the sages said, one who buys a Jewish servant has in effect bought himself a master. That's how good you have to treat your servant. So there's a whole discussion over here. What if you only have one pillow? So it says, you shouldn't have two and he has one. But what if there's only one? Who gets it, kind of? Or is the master allowed to sleep on it if there is only one? Let's look at footnote 2. The servant is apparently being treated as his equal, not his master. Nevertheless, in a case where the master has but one pillow, he must let his servant use it rather than himself. That's incredible. We're talking about a master and a servant, and the servant gets the pillow and not the master, but how is that equal? For if he were to use it for himself, he'd be in violation, for it is good for him with you. So it's not with you because you're going to have it and he's not. And if we were to say that therefore neither of them should use it, he would be guilty of the mindset of Sodom. It's like, if I'm not going to have it, then no one should have it. So that's no good either, because at least someone should sleep on a pillow.
So that's a contradiction to the Pirkei Avos. When it says, what's mine is mine, and what's yours is yours, zeh midrash shlom.
So why is it a contradiction?
Because what's mine is mine, and yours is yours. If you have nothing, tough.
You're saying, according to the Pirkei Avos, if each one has their own, then...
Yeah, but if the servant has none, what's mine is mine, I have a pillow. What's yours is yours, you don't have a pillow. This is Benoni, or some say
that's a bit of stone.
So here he's saying neither of them should have it.
That's
the midah of stone. So there's a significant difference there.
So in Sodom, they did a lot of things that were wrong. So a lot of things that when a negative behavior, usually we attribute to Sodom.
Uh-huh.
Whether it's being, I think in Pirkei Avos, it's actually talking about a more refined type of midah of Sodom. Because at least he's saying mine is mine and yours is yours, and it's like we're not fighting
so they're elevating it.
Yeah.
So in other words, so it still becomes all encompassing.
Yeah, so like anytime we want to say a bad midah, we say, oh, this is a midah of Sodom. And in Pirkei Avos, it's an argument. Some people say it's beinonus, which is an average. Saying mine is mine and yours is yours, it just means, mind your own business. Everyone has their own and we're not sharing. But there's another attribute of Sodom is like, if I'm not going to have it, then no one should have it. So that's also not a good midah. Like at least one person, at least someone should have it. So, according to this opinion, accordingly, only his servant will use the pillow and will thus be like his master. So that's one opinion. See, however, Minchas Chinuch, who suggests that Rambam disagrees with this law and is of the opinion that the master should be able to keep his single pillow for himself in such a case. So we have here a machlekes. If you just have one pillow, who gets it? A pillow fight, huh? Between the master and the Eved. According to Rambam, the rule of equivalence vis-a-vis one's servant would come into play only when the master has enough of a particular resource to be able to let him and the servant enjoy it.
By the way, that's fine, just pronounced vis-a-vis.
Vis-a-vis?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the correction. Regarding whether the laws of how to treat a servant apply equally to a regular worker, see Rosh. So the question is a worker, does he go into the category of an Eved, and how you have to treat a worker? That's another discussion. All right, so here we see how we have to treat our Avadim in the best way. Now we're going to discuss what happens when he doesn't want to leave. We pierce his ears, special mitzvah. In the second paragraph here, the Torah teaches that a Jewish servant who wishes to remain with his master beyond the mandatory 6 years is taken to a doorpost where his ears are pierced. This act, called Ritzia, extends his term of servitude until Yovel, which means really he should be serving only 6 years, and in the 7th year he goes free. But if he gets his ear pierced, then he's able to stay up to the Yovel, to the Jubilee year. But a servant, a Jewish servant will never serve forever, because when the 50th year comes, that's it. He goes free either way, even if he loves his master and wants to stay. So
if the 7-year term is interrupted by Yovel in year 4, he goes free.
Yeah, it's just automatic.
So he doesn't have to go through
the ear piercing.
Ear piercing in order to get out of a contract.
Right. So it all depends when the Yovel year is in relation to when he became an Eved. The Torah describes the act of Ritzia as follows. His master shall bring him, the Jewish servant, to the court, and shall bring him to the door or the doorpost, and his master shall bore through his ear with the awl, and he shall serve him forever. So this is a very... we have to understand why are we doing this? What's the significance of piercing his ear, and why by the doorpost? What's the meaning behind this mitzvah, and how does it relate to what the servant wants to do? That he wants to continue serving and not become free. The Gemara quotes a Raisa that expounds 2 sections of this verse. The first section, the verse states, "And his master shall bore through his ear with the awl." Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai expounded this verse as pleasingly as a packet of pearls. So this is supposed to be a very beautiful interpretation. The word in Hebrew for this is kimin choimer. Choimer. So it's like choimer means a packet, and what's in the packet? Rashi says either there's pearls or spices in it. If you look at footnote 4.
Well, meaning is spices.
Kimin chaimer means kimin means like. It is like a chaimer. Min could mean a species, a type, but over here it means kimin chaimer. It's kind of like as a mushal, as an analogy of a packet of spices.
I know, but words can be double duty.
Yeah.
I noticed the word min.
Like bari mine besamim, you're saying.
Word, yeah. But what's the word for pearls?
So pearl would be margalius, yeah.
So I wonder where they got a packet of pearls from.
So he's saying, because chomer I think means just the packet, but what's in the packet? You don't just want to have an empty packet. It must be something important or good significance. So
see Rashi or Sota 15a.
To see, I guess, more about chomer. We'll see soon. Taisus argues he has a different definition of chomer. We'll get to it soon. So let's see, what's his beautiful interpretation? What makes the ear unique among all the limbs of the body that it should be involved in the act of ritzia? If you're going to make a pierce a hole, why do it through his ear? Where else should we do it? Tanuch.
Is it the terminology?
So tanuch is more the middle of the ear.
My understanding is that the pierce is through here, not through here. That's my understanding.
So in the Torah, it says es aznoi. It doesn't say specifically where in the ear. It just says you should pierce the ear. Could be in the Gemara. It says somewhere where exactly you do it. I'm not sure. But that's a good question. Where about?
Yeah.
So why the ear? This is what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is asking. So he explains, the Holy One, blessed is He said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, this is the ear that heard my voice on Mount Sinai when I proclaimed, for the children of Israel are servants to me, implying that they are my servants and not the servants of servants. Saying, we are servants of Hashem. Why is He selling Himself to someone else? Despite this, He went and acquired a different master for Himself. Since he disregarded what his ear has heard, he shall be pierced in the ear. So, his ear heard by Har Sinai what Hashem said, and he nevertheless served himself as an Eved. So then comes the question, so why don't we pierce his ear when he becomes a servant? The Gemara says, because he went and got a master for himself, therefore he should be pierced. Why don't we pierce his ear right when he becomes a slave? Why are we doing it now?
It was a limited contract. He said he wasn't selling himself in perpetuity. He was giving him whatever, 5-year, 7-year contract. I'll work for you for so many years.
You're saying only when he shows that he wants to be a servant, long time.
It's when he changes the terms
then
that he becomes a slave. Before that, he's a worker, an arbiter, on whatever the term was traditionally 5 years.
6 years. 6 years. So it's you're saying it's a limited, it's like a worker. Also, usually, why does a person sell himself? Because he's in a desperate, or tight financial situation. So a lot of times you could say, how could we blame this person? He had to do it, to make some money.
Yeah, but he's not willing to go out and prove himself.
So now...
The other question is, aren't slaves sometimes there because they committed a crime?
Yeah, sometimes it's because they stole or something like that.
So then once the punishment has been exacted, then what are they doing hanging around?
Exactly.
Go out and make a life.
So we can't always blame him in the first place why he became a slave, because first of all, it might be because of a crime.
This is God's decree that he should be forced to steal for his livelihood.
Or once he stole, and this was what he has to do, so you can't really blame him then. But why are you continuing? Why do you resume being a slave?
We look down on someone who wanted to stay in prison.
Right. So that's why we only do it then. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai explained the ear part. But now, why by the door? The second passage, the same verse further states, his master shall bring him to the door or the doorpost. Reb Shimon bar Rebbe expounded this verse as pleasingly as a packet of pearls. I'm not sure why the art scroll decided. Okay, over here they did the same thing as before. So they chose that it's a packet of pearls, not spices. So again, we're using this kimin chaymer, a very interesting expression describing the beauty of an interpretation. And he says, yeah. Okay, it's not so common. You don't have this expression like kimin chaymer all the time. And here we have it twice in a row, one about the ear and one about the doorway. So what makes the door and the doorpost unique among all the furnishing in the house that they should be involved in the act of ritzia?
It's so weird that they use the word min. If the word chomer means packet, then the word min is, you say kechomer. The word min is, it's superfluous, and that makes it interesting.
You're saying because ki already means like as. So why do you have to say kimin chomer? Like a type of, it's like a type of chomer. Kimin chomer. So we'll get back to the chomer. I'm not sure, it's a good point about the min. So why do we have to use that word? So why do we use the doorpost? So we say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed is He said, the door and the doorpost were my witness in Egypt when I began the process of delivering the Jewish people from slavery to freedom by passing over the lintel and the 2 doorposts of the Jewish home. So now we're going back to Yetzias Mitzrayim. So when we left Mitzrayim, so they put the blood on the doorposts, so that was a sign for Hashem to pass over their houses and free the Jewish people. So this same doorway is supposed to remind them that we're really free. So why are you going and continuing to be a slave? For the children of Israel are servants to me. They are my servants who I have taken out of the land of Egypt, implying they are my servants and not the servants of servants. For I deliver them from slavery to freedom. Despite all this, this Jewish servant went and acquired a different master for himself. Since he disregarded the testimony of the door and the doorpost, it is fitting that he shall be pierced in their presence.
You want some more?
Thank you. Sure. So we have the ear and the door, and both are upset at the slave. The ear is saying, you heard by Har Sinai that Hashem is the real master, and the door is reminding him of the doorpost by Mitzrayim when Hashem passed over them to free the Jewish people. So why are you trying to be an Eved? We already left Mitzrayim. We're not Avadim anymore. We're free to go.
So they're tying them back together.
Yep. We're giving you a mark to remember.
Physically uniting the ear that heard with the
door.
That's saved, and it's only temporary, but nevertheless you're saying this is where you belong.
Also, the Eved, Avadim Hayinu, is consistent as well.
Yeah, we were slaves, Hayinu.
So many of the laws say because you were a slave in Egypt.
Yeah. So let's get a little bit more into the Chaimer. Kimin Chaimer. And so what's the Chaimer? So we have here Tosfos. Tosfos argues on Rashi, and even about a translation sometimes. So Kimin Chaimer, the first thing on the top, Pirush HaKuntras. Rashi says Tzror Margolis. It's a packet of pearls, ay besamim, or spices, some type of perfume, maybe shetoloi betzavar nashim l'tachshit, that you kind of like a necklace that women wear as an ornament, as some jewelry. Rabbeinu Tam Pirush, but Rabbeinu Tam, Rashi's grandson, he's saying Chaimer means maisa. Chaimer doesn't mean a packet of pearls. He says Chaimer means an action. V'chein Pirush ha'aruch. And then he quotes here from Arabic. B'lashon Aravi, in Arabic, Sha'omer l'chaverei ma masacha, when someone is asking, what do you do? Omer lei ma chamrach. What's your chamrach? What do you do? So, what I don't understand is, according to Tosfos, why is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai saying it's kimin chaimer? It is like an action. What does he mean by that? Kimin chaimer. According to Rashi, that it means either pearls or fragrance. That makes sense in the context. But what does he mean kimin chaimer, like an action? I haven't figured out this Tosfos. If anyone has an idea, why would chaimer mean an action in this case?
And Zakkai expounded this verse as pleasingly as an action.
Yeah, well, how is an action like it's?
Okay, maybe it has to do with that action I described, tying the door to the ear.
But when you say like an action, it's so general and vague. It's like, what type of action are we talking about? Like when someone asks you, ma chamrach, I want to know what your action is. So if you're saying kimin chaimer, like an action, like what type of action? And what does that mean? So that's yeah, I don't know. If anyone has an idea, open for suggestions and explanations. Then the next Tosfos is also different than usual. Tosfos brings a gematria. The second one, manishtana oizen. It's funny, we're using the words manishtana over here. Why is the ear different? Why are we choosing the ear out of all the parts of the body? He says, Yesh medrash, there is a medrash that says, the martseya begematria dalad meyos, that if you take the gematria of the word martseya is the awl that they use to pierce. The gematria of martseya is 400. What's the significance of 400? Because the Jewish people were slaves in Mitzrayim for 400 years, and Hashem redeemed them. And this person went and bought a master, kind of sold himself as a slave. That's why he's going to be pierced with the awl, which has the gematria of 400. So what Taisus is doing is saying that it all ties in. Not only the ear, not only the door, but even the awl that they're using is also connected to remind him that we were slaves, for 400. So that's interesting that the word
The
martzeh.
slaves was our contract to Egypt, and then it was over, and between the 400 and the sacrifice of the sheep and the hearing at Mount Sinai, then we establish our eternal slavery
To Hashem.
but to Hashem, not Egypt. So we did change masters through those things. And this poor Jew is choosing not to change masters through those three things.
Or he is changing masters, which means we became
Oh,
Hashem's
to
servants.
downward.
Yeah.
Downward, yeah.
And here comes the famous question. We know that the Jewish people did not serve in Mitzrayim for 400 years.
So
So
where does Shnei Ma'av Esrim?
it was 210
Yeah.
that they were in
Where does
Mitzrayim.
that fit?
So
What's
why
the-
are
what's
we
the Gematria of 210?
redu? That's one of the Hashem's redu, go down to Mitzrayim.
Uh-huh.
So it says redu is a hint that it would actually only be 210 years. So we'll get back to this question. If we're trying to hint to the slave,
I wonder
with
if Redu could be connected to the court, because that's the other element in this. You have to take him to the court and then take him to the door.
yeah, we didn't
So,
explain the core part of it.
Redu go to the court in some way.
Possibly, if you could explain the connection.
You go down to the gate and you speak to the leaders.
So, just to explain a little bit, why do they use this analogy of either a packet of pearls or spices? What pearls and spices have in common is that they have something that spreads, which means when you have a pearl which is beautiful and shining, it's not just that you have it around your neck. It actually brings beauty to the whole person. Or let's say when you have some spices, the smell and the fragrance, it travels, it spreads. So what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is doing over here, he's saying that the beauty is that the same idea spreads to the different details of the mitzvah. So we have one concept over here which explains everything about this mitzvah. That's why it's like a packet of pearls or spices, because it's something which spreads. It doesn't just stay in one area. You're able to explain multiple things based on one idea. So that's why it would be like a packet of...
So those two sages are referring to the same packet.
It's actually the same sage. That's what's even more interesting. Rabbi
Oh,
Yochanan ben Zakkai was the same one who said both things, and he said that by both that it's like a chomer.
Rabbi Shimon bar Rebbe, no. The second one is Shimon bar Rebbe, and the first one is Yochanan ben Zakkai.
Oh, you're right.
So now two sages to come together to explain these concepts. So the pearls spread into two
people,
expounders.
and they both.
Yeah. So it spread its beauty. So it's the same packet, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
So it's not that they use the same term twice. So they use the same term once, and two sages benefited from it.
Yeah.
So again, the spreading.
That's the spreading idea.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is the reason why I thought it was the same person, because Rashi and Chumash actually brings this Gemara from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and I think over there he doesn't quote Rabbi Shimon bar Rebbe. We have to check back in the Rashi over there, but I think Rashi only brings Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, so that's something to look into. I think Rashi kind of mixes the whole thing together, as Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said everything. We could check the Chumash.
Maybe maybe who came first, Yochanan ben Zakkai or
Rabbi Shimon bar Rebbe. I think they were about in the same time. They're both.
Okay, so then there goes, reinforcing my theory, but it doesn't.
Or possibly, or maybe Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was later, and he built it off of Shimon bar Rebbe, because we know, we'll see soon, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was at the time of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash.
That's good. That's good. That's so good.
Yeah. So now we're going to dive deep a little bit into Kabbalah, onto this idea. This is from Teres Levi Yitzchak. Today is the yard site of Rev Levi Yitzchak Schneerson, and he explains this idea based on Kabbalah. So
where does he fit in the dynasty of Chabad Levi?
So it's the Rebbe's father,
Which Rebbe?
the last Rebbe.
Schneerson's father,
Yeah,
Levi Yitzchak?
Levi Yitzchak.
So
he wasn't a Rebbe officially. He was
because Schneerson was a son-in-law.
right.
So he was the father of.
But his father's name was also Schneerson, which means he really married a cousin. That's the idea. But his father was a big rabbi and also a big Kabbalist. So we'll go a little bit into explaining the Eved Ivri. So it's on the last page over here of this booklet.
We're skipping the English?
Yeah, we'll get back to it. Just okay. So no. Even further, the last who you sowed.
The back side or the front side?
The front side. Okay. Who you sowed Abba. So just a little introduction. So we just brought from Tosfos that
So what is this Chadar Yazal?
So this is kind of comes in the middle of a different piece. He's explaining a Mishnah in Kalim, which is somewhere totally elsewhere. But he brings this idea of the Eved Ivri in the middle of the topic. And he's talking about Martzeya, talking about the all, and he says that it's gematria. You see the word Martzeya?
No.
It's the second line. Zoshu kamoi Martzeya. It is like a Martzeya. And he says Martzeya gematria tough. He says Martzeya is gematria 400, like we just had in the Tosfos. But now he's going to give the Kabbalistic explanation for this 400. He says Huadalid Yudin. These are the 4 Yuds, the Shem Ayin Beis, the Abba. What does he mean with this? So we're talking about Hashem's name, the 4-letter name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. And if you spell the name in full, like the Yud Vav Dalid, Hey, how do you spell the letter Hey? It would be Hey Yud. Vav is Vav Yud Vav. Hey, another Hey Yud. So that's called this. So it's spelling each letter of Hashem's name in full, but they all have a Yud. So you have the first Yud, and then there's a Yud in the Hey Yud. In the Vav, there's a Vav Yud Vav, and in the last Hey, it's Hey Yud. So there's a Yud in each one. So he says the 4 Yuds of the Shem Ayin Beis. If you take the gematria of spelling out Hashem's name like that, you get the name, the 72. What's 72? It's the gematria. The Shekol Echad Kolol Miyud. If you take 4 times 10, we know that there's the 10 Spheros Olam Martzeya. It equals to 400, which is Martzeya. Okay, so now what's the story?
Wait. Could you repeat that because I didn't get it?
So the 4-letter name of Hashem.
Where they were, right?
Yes. So how do you spell the letter Hey? If you want to just write the letter.
I understand there's 4 units. So how do we get from 4 units, which is only 40, to 400? Oh, because the units were 10.
Yes.
So that's 4 units. That's 40.
But so there's 4 Yuds, that's 40, but then each one of those Yuds are also included of 10. It's times. It's like
10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Times.
Yeah. Because we're including all the 10 spheres.
You just throw away those other letters that are superfluous?
So we're focusing here on the Yud, and we'll see soon in a second why only the Yud.
Okay.
Because basically the way you spell Hashem's name, whether you do it with a Yud or with a Aleph or with a Hey, because you could write Hey, either Hey Yud or Hey Aleph or Hey.
Okay,
I don't know if you do an ayin. So these are all different variations of spellings of Hashem's name, and each one has a different significance. So we're talking about the Yud Kei Vav Kei in the Yud fashion. That's why the focus here is the Yud. Now we know what is Yud. In the Yud represents Chachma. Like the flash. Yud is just the dot. It's the point. So Chachma is where an idea comes to your head. It's just like a dot, just like a spark that pops, a pintle, pops into your head. The Hey that follows is Bina. It's a letter which is more expanded. That's when you take the idea and you develop it. Then you have the Vav, that's the 6 midos, and then you have the final Hey, which represents thought, speech, and action. That's where it goes even further.
So a concept turns into an idea, which turns into a plan, which turns into action.
Yes, basically. So let's think about the slave. So how many years is he supposed to work? Eved works for 6 years. 6 are the 6 midos. That's the Vav. Now, what's the problem with this Eved? The problem is that he wants to continue working. Now,
He doesn't want to take a step to action.
we're actually going the other way around, which means he doesn't want to use his brain. He doesn't want to use his chachma. If he was using his chachma, he would want to be free. A true man, a free person, is someone who's able to use his chachma, is able to think, while you're an eved, you're kind of tied up. So he says, we'll continue.
I remember hearing that even in non-Jewish sources, that the problem with slaves and army men and so forth is they just do what they're told. They're told not to think, and so they don't think, and they lose the ability.
The slave mentality.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
But that sounds like the opposite of Chacham.
exactly. So he is.
The opposite.
It's going backwards.
So let's see what it says here. V'lachein eved ivri in the brackets over here. Still in this, we didn't fit. The brackets is where it starts. It's funny because it's a side note, but that's v'lachein eved ivri. Shetzarech lavad rak vav shanim. He's only supposed to work for 6 years. Leneged havav midos, corresponding to the 6 midos. V'das shu chayusam v'kayumam.
I'm sorry, what are the 6 midos?
6 midos are chesed, gevura, teferes, netzach.
From the spheres.
Yes. And das shu chayusam v'kiyumam. Das is the life of the midos. The life of the midos. Das is the part of the brain which brings the life to the midos. That's right before the midos. The das hu maftacha the kol shis. This is words from the Zohar. That das is the key that includes 6. Hine kishareitze lavid yoser. When he wants to work more, shemagia ze b'moichin. This is affecting the brains. He is causing a damage or a defect in the moichin. Tzarech l'ratzeas oznoi b'martzeya. Now we have to pierce his ear. And now he's going to explain what does this mean. Oizen hu bina. Ear, listening ear, this is bina, understanding, shmiya. It's like when we say Shema Yisrael, listen. It's not just to listen, it means to understand, to perceive, to grasp.
Symbolically opening the ear.
This is where he's supposed to be using his ear, he's supposed to be using his understanding, and he's not. And the awl that we're using to pierce the ear, hu yisoid abba. That corresponds to the part of Chachma, which we're going to pierce his ear with. And now he's going to go into the letters. He's going to do something very interesting. The inyan ba'aznoi ba'dalos. Why are we piercing it on the ear and the doorway?
Yosef Abba, meaning Abba like father?
Abba's father, Chachma and Bina, are called Abba ve'ima, father and mother. Because the Chachma is what produces the midos. So they're like the parents. So Yisoid Abba is
one penetrative and the other receptive?
Yes, Bina receives from Chachma. So that's why Yisoid is the one that's penetrating, into the Bina. That's why the awl, which is the Chachma, is piercing the ear of Bina. Now he goes into the letters. We say ba'aznoi ubadelis, in the ear and the doorway. Ulay yishleimar, possibly we could say hadelis, the doorway, yirmois al hadalid. The letter dalid represents the doorway. because it kind of looks like it. Yeah, look at the shape of a Dalet. And
Dalet means door in
Dalet,
proto.
yeah, Dallas. Dallas is the door. And where do you find a Dalet?
Just any door, an open door.
It's missing the thing in the bottom,
Yeah,
right?
because a hay, I remember something about if you can't go through the door, you go to the hay and you climb over the transom.
It says hay represents tshuva because it's not stuck. You're able, even if you fall from the bottom, you could come out. You could. There's a way to escape. So he says that it referring to the Dalid, the Tzir Hay Rishona, Dahainu Tevuna. So he's saying like this. We said in the name of Hashem, Yud, the first hay. So where is he causing a defect? In the hay, in the Bina. That's why we have to pierce it, because we're trying to tell him that he's missing something in his ear, in his Bina, in his understanding. And he continues, Hainu Oyir Maiz ala Dalad Miloi Hayud. Or within the letter Yud Vav Dalad, you also have the letter Dalad. V'hainu hamartzeya hu kamei havav d'miloi hayud. The all is like the vav, looks like the vav. V'hadalid hu hadalid d'miloi hayud. So I made So let's just look back on the first page. I made it a little bit easier to understand. On the first page over here, you see the Yud Vav Dalid, and then the Hey, in big.
Yeah.
So Yud, if you look at the picture of the letters, and we said before that Yud and Hey is Chachma and Bina. Yud is the point, and then Hey is developing, it's explaining, expounding. And this person that wants to serve more, he's causing a defect in his Chachma and Bina, which means he wants to have the slave mentality and not to use his brains. So what do? We take the Vav of the letter Yud. The Vav looks like the All, what you use to pierce. And then the Dalid looks like the doorway. And then you have two Dalids, because you have the Dalid within the letter Yud, and then you have the Dalid within the letter Hey.
There's a Dalid in the letter Hey, that shape.
Yeah.
We're not calling that a resh?
No, because in the Torah, it's not rounded off. The way it's in the picture over here, it looks rounded, but really in the Torah, the hay is shaped like a Dalid. It just has another line there on the bottom.
Yeah, I see it.
So it's very interesting. Just looking at these letters Yud, Vav, Dalid, you could see the all and the door. That's what he's saying. And because this slave is causing, he's not using his moyach, he's not using his brains of Chachma and Bina, which is affecting the Yud and the Hey of Hashem's name, that's why we take the all, we take the Yud and the Hey, we tell him, start using your Chachma and Bina, start using your intellect, stop having the slave mentality.
It's also interesting that when you have Yud, Vav, Dalet, Hey, you have Yodea, to understand. So that you use your brain and understand.
Yeah, so but just Yodea is with the ayin, but it's close.
Oh, okay.
It's
can't spell for nothing.
but it sounds similar. Yeah, so basically it's an interesting. So basically this is an interesting idea that he's explaining. The 6 years represents the midos, and the fact that he's staying longer is he's affecting the moyach, the brain, the chachma and bina. So that's why he gets pierced by the ear, telling him you got to use your ear to learn some Torah, to understand more, to think about Hashem. And the piercing is the all. That's like the chachma, which is coming and telling him, you got to use your chachma also. Okay, now something interesting. Well, the person who said this was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, right? The one who explained this whole pasuk about the ear. So now, what do we know about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and how does this tie in to what he said? So let's look on this page over here. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, we know about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai that he lived for 120 years, where it's on the first page. It says Reish Yud Beis Zayin in bold.
What does that mean?
It's an acronym for Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rivaz. Most people don't say it like that, but that's just the Rosh Tevos. So it says he lived for 120 years. Mem Shana, for 40 years, Asak Beprakmatia. For 40 years, he was involved in business. Mem Shana Lamad, for 40 years he studied, and Mem Shana Limed, for 40 years he taught. So this is a long life, 120 years, like Moshe Rabbeinu, 120. 40 years he did business, 40 years he learned, and 40 years he taught. Then in Pirkei Avos we say, Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Im lamadat Torah harbe, al tachzik tova la'atzmach. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said that even if you learn a lot of Torah, you should not take credit. You shouldn't say, "Oh, I'm very great because I learned so much Torah." Ki lekach naitzarta. That's why you were created to learn Torah.
I'm going to distract a little on this because it's kind of interesting. We know that Moshe brought gifts to the east, and we know that Siddhartha gained the wisdom of the east. He brought it in his journey to the west. He brought back the wisdom to the east. That's Siddhartha, the prince of India. And they developed something called the middle path. So the middle path was, and very Jewish, okay? The middle path is you shouldn't be an ascetic, ASC, ascetic, and you shouldn't be wholly involved in material things. You need to live the middle path. And their idea of the middle path is your childhood as a acolyte in the temple. As a man, young man, you create a family. As a middle-aged man, you generate wealth for the family. Then as an older man, you in this whole process, you acquire knowledge. And then as an old man, you abandon all that, you leave it behind, and you become a holy beggar. And you go out with your bowl, and but now you're a sage. And you live by begging, but you also live because people pay you, they drop money in your pocket because you have something to teach. Mm-hmm. So their middle path corresponds exactly
with Rabbi Yochanan ben
to what he
Zakkai.
did. Yeah, 40 years in growing as a man, then 40 years in acquiring knowledge, and then 4 years in teaching. Very parallel to this middle path of Hinduism.
Interesting.
And the gifts from the west and the gifts to the east and so forth. Yeah.
Wow, it's an interesting parallel. Yeah. So this is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Now Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai lived through a very difficult time. And this story is also in Gemara Gittin, but it's recorded in Avos Reb Nosson with more details. And it's something new. I didn't know about this before. There's also translation on the other side. I'll just read in Hebrew and translate. Shaba Aspasianus lahachravis Yerushalayim. When Vespasian came to destroy Yerushalayim, Amar lahem, he said to them, Shaitim, fools, mipnei matem mevakshin lahachravis irazais. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is speaking to the Romans. He says, why do you want to destroy this city? Va'atem mevakshim lisrafis beis hamikdash, and burn the beis hamikdash. V'chi mani mevakish mikem. Sorry, this is actually Vespasian speaking to the Jewish people, and he says,
by not surrendering.
What do I want from you? He says, I just want one arrow, one spear to be thrown to me, which is a sign of recognition, which means that he felt that the Jewish people are not recognizing his rulership or his position. And he says, you guys have a wall. I want you to throw over the wall just an arrow. Throw an arrow, throw a spear, show some type of recognition. Ve'elech le'mikem.
And mercy on your city if you show the slightest submission.
Yes.
Not guilty, submission.
And so the Jewish people
guilty is what you give an equal.
So what do they respond? The Jewish people respond, just as the first two that came onto us, I think they say the first two refers to, in the English they say here, the reference of
previous generals?
Yes, that were defeated by the Judeans. He says, the Jewish people say, just like we defeated those two generals, we killed them, kach netzi lefanecha v'nahargach. So they say, we're also going to come and kill you. That's the way the Jewish people responded to Aspasianus. Kivan shesharma Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai heard this, shalach v'kara la'anshe Yerushalayim. So he calls the people of Yerushalayim, v'amar lahem, and he says to them, B'ni, He tells the Jewish people, why are you being so stubborn? Why do you want to destroy the city? It's going to be your fault that the Beis Hamikdash is going to be burnt. What is he asking from you? He's just waiting for one arrow, for one. He'll leave. And then again, they tell Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai the same thing.
Why should the Jews believe him? It's like, put down your gun and I won't shoot you. Nobody puts down their gun in that circumstance.
It's not.
Suggesting that they shoot it over the wall.
Yeah, they're not saying to put down their gun. He's just saying to some covet, yeah.
Yeah. I get where the Jews are coming from, and that they think, as we've seen in other wars, very recently, and giving up a sign of weakness only leads to further, it's not respected. Those kinds of deals are not respected.
Right. I don't think he was asking for them to give up or to surrender. He just wanted them to show some respect. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai took their side, and he was kind of upset at the Jewish people. Why don't you just do a little bit to show?
He said he didn't get shot.
And it says something interesting. It says that they were over on the other side of the wall. So how did they send messages across the wall? They would do it through an arrow, I guess. And it says they would write on the arrow, Loi Marsha Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai me'oyave kesarhu.
So this arrow they're throwing over the wall probably had to have terms of surrender written on it.
It doesn't say before what they want to be written.
Say, but that's the implication.
Yeah. And
if you reflect backwards.
Yeah. So one thing they did write on this arrow, that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is of the friends and supporters of the Roman emperor, of the Caesar. Yeah.
So he's a traitor, and we're not going to send over our terms of surrender on him now.
That's basically what they were saying. But Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was there for peace, and he was actually saying that, don't start up with them.
But reading between the lines, it sounds like he wanted more than just an arrow. He wanted an arrow with terms of surrender on it, and then he would enter the city, and then he claimed he would do them no harm. But
so you're taking the side of the Jews, right?
I would, if I was a Jew and I was being told to surrender, and the implication is open the gates and we'll walk in and we'll occupy the city and not harm you. I know it doesn't say that, but it sure implies that, based on that they're communicating by arrows, throwing an arrow over the wall.
Yeah.
It's not just an arrow; it's an arrow with a message.
I merely ask that you relinquish unto each man his bow and arrow.
Each one, exactly. So he wants to
Oh,
disarm the entire city.
he's saying to relinquish. It means to give up, to put down.
Yeah.
That's
So he wants to disarm the entire city.
The bow and arrow, not just the arrow.
Yeah.
the keshes.
So it's completely
He
disarmed.
wants to completely disarm the city, and then he promises that he won't go in and massacre every man and capture every woman and child. You know how the Romans work.
Right. Yeah. So that's what the Jewish people
A
were
lot of stuff
thinking.
being unsaid in the heavily censored Talmud.
Yeah. But it's interesting is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he agreed. he
We know the Talmud's in code, that's all I'm saying.
right.
I think we cracked it. Mr. Karaku,
Well,
for picking that up.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that about relinquishing. Now, the next part of the story we know pretty much from the Gemara and Gittin, where Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he faked that he died, and then they took him out, and that's where he met.
He go out in a wagon of straw or something, a wagon of...
It was a whole thing how they did it. They put something smelly to that it should.
I was going to say manure, but I wasn't sure.
I think like a dead, I don't know, something.
Carcasses?
Yeah. And then he basically meets Aspasionis, and he tells him, first of all, you're going to become the next emperor, which happened. And he asked him, what's your request? He asked Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, what do you want? I'll give you, your request. So it says he asked for Yavne. He asked for a certain city, B'chachamel, and the sages.
Cure for the sage.
And he basically saved the Torah, which means even though the city of Yerushalayim was destroyed, but he saved the sages. He saved the Torah that should continue for the Jewish people.
Yeah.
And Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai witnessed the whole destruction of the Beis Hamikdash.
Interestingly enough, Josephus, a Jewish Roman citizen, claimed that he was the one who did that.
Did what?
Josephus claims that he was the one who spoke to Vespasian and had that conversation with him.
Yeah,
Josephus made a lot of claims that were absolutely fabulous.
there's a lot of things in Josephus that are not so accurate. So what's
He claimed he was at the suicide pact of Masada, for instance, and that everyone would kill his neighbor, and he was the last one, so he decided to not. He killed the last guy and fled. He wasn't. He claims he was a Masada. He made a lot of claims, so you got to take everything Josephus says with a grain of salt.
Yes.
He's a fabulist. But it was the nature of historians to write themselves into the story back then, so people say that's the culture, but it means you can't trust them to be impartial history.
Right. So, what's the idea over here? Why are we mentioning the stories of Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai? Because Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai, his life was really about Torah. So this person, this slave, what is he doing? By continuing to be a slave, he's kind of removing himself from Hashem and from the Torah. And Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai is telling him, this ear that heard by Har Sinai, when Hashem gave the Torah, you should be more devoted to Torah. If you have a chance to be free, to study more Torah, to use your Yud and your Hey, your Chachma and Bina, why are you getting stuck in being a slave? So that's why it's Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai. And also, we said before that sometimes it could be a very difficult situation, like in a time that this person ends up being a slave, right? Because he was financially in a very tight situation. And Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai, he himself lived through a very hard time. He was doing business for 40 years. He witnessed the Churban of the Beis Hamikdash. And what is he doing? Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai is making sure that Torah continues. He makes this whole thing and asks, give me Yavna, that Yavna should continue. So Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai, his life is fully focused on Torah. So that's why he is the one that's saying this explanation about this Eved and saying, we got to pierce your ears because you should really be learning Torah. Now, we'll finish off with this last story about Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai. It's a very powerful story. On the last page over here, it says Pam Achas. The next page. Haya Pam Achas. It's in bold. Haya Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai yotzim Yerushalayim. Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai was leaving Yerushalayim. Haya Rabbi Yeshua haylech achrav, and Rabbi Yeshua was walking after him.
Oh, the fox?
No, it's a different story. V'ra Beis Hamikdash chariv, and he sees the Beis Hamikdash destroyed. Amar Rabbi Yeshua says, Ay lanu al zashu chariv. He says, Ay vei, what's going to be to us? The Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. Makayim shemachaprim bay avanisayim shel Yisrael. This is a place where the sins of the Jewish people are atoned for. Amar lai b'ni, he says to my son, Al yer alacha. Don't worry, don't be upset and bothered by this. Yesh lanu kapara achas shehi kamaisa. We have another atonement which is like the Beis Hamikdash. Ve'ezeh, what is this? Milos chasadim, acts of kindness. He's saying, this is incredible. He's saying that in the place of the Beis Hamikdash, we have chesed, we have kindness. The opposite of midas dom. So how does this tie in? Because this person that's a slave, sometimes it's because he stole, he committed a crime. Really, what should be happening is that there should be chesed, there should be kindness. He shouldn't be stuck in the situation that he has to be an eved. And that's the same Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai that's putting the emphasis on gemilas chasadim, on acts of kindness. And he's saying, if you need help, you should turn to your fellow Jews. You don't have to continue being an eved. People should help you out. There should be gemilas chesed. Then just to finish off on a positive note, there's a whole discussion about the final Beis Hamikdash. How is it going to come about? Is it going to fall from Shemayim, or is it going to be built by a person, or by Mashiach, or by the Jewish people? Some places it sounds like it's going to come down from heaven. In other places it sounds like it's going to be built by people. So there's a lot of different answers to resolve this contradiction. One of the answers is that the doors will be put up by Mashiach or by people, by humans, and the rest of it is going to come from heaven. So it says the one who puts up the door, it's also like, the one who built the house. So speaking about the doors over here, the door is supposed to remind us of freedom. So, it's Mashiach that's going to put up the doors, and, hopefully we should all be soon see the Beis HaMikdash with the doors. And here we made mamash.
Maybe someday we will look at and say that the Daf Yomi is Beis Mikdash Yerushalayim, because